Shalom, fam. Welcome back to Tents of Judah. Took a little break to try to get some refreshing titles and topics to get you all engaged a little more. But nonetheless, since this is the beginning of months and we're in the month Nisan or Abib, um, when the correct pronunciation is available, we will use it. But until that time, pronounce it to your best of ability. I want all of you to understand that the beginning of months in Exodus, the 12th chapter, speaks of when the Most High was telling the children of Israel while we were in our movement to go into the promised land and doing those things when Moses was leading us out of our conditions in Egypt to become and get up under the covenant. What he said was, marking the time of year that we were moving, which was right at the beginning of spring, due to activities that were going on in the, uh, uh, the world of Egypt, if you will, that we were coming out of. It's just a reference point to mark the season that we were about to enter at that time. But he did make a statement that this will be the beginning of months. So what the Most High was, excuse me, what the Most High was clarifying to us, this will be the beginning of the technically the Hebrew calendar, right? And he would let us know that regardless of the calendar of the community around us, the Gregorian calendar, the Caesarean calendar, all of the different calendars that may have been available, the bottom line was for us to mark the new moon of this period of time. And from that point, when we go through our 12 moons, we will always be back on our yearly calendar, even though based on work issues and the fact that we're not back in our rulership position, we still use Gregorian calendars for different things and work related and calendar related because we still under rule of someone else and we're trying to get our rulership back. That's what the kingdom of heaven summates to. When we get that back, our or the 12 tribes will be making all the rules on earth, and they will be the Mosaic laws in essence. Um, so until then, we have to find the balance and understand how to follow our covenant rules and laws of the Torah, the first five books of the Bible, the Mosaic covenant that was established and reinforced by Christ in First John 2 and 7 and John the seventh chapter. But he says there are no new commandments, just those that are of old, and you'll be able to break that down the more you study. But today I kind of wanted to start since I'm in the sixth day of the fifth day of the new month of Nisan or Abib. And what I wanted to do was try to catch you at this point so that you could particularly start with Passover. That's coming up on the 13th, leading into the 14th day of this month, not of the month of March, but from the beginning. And the beginning of this month started with the new moon that came into crescent to that came into the fold on the 21st at about 1 o'clock during the day. I would suggest that you get an app that keeps account or keeps a cycling of the moon. You can literally get free apps. Just put in their full new moon app or just put moon app, if you will, and you'll get an app that will keep up with the crescent stages of the moon, which typically is 28, sometimes it's 30. Just depends on that particular lunar cycle. But with that being said, the new moon of the month that we're in now, which is the first month of our year, and that's where we begin to follow our feast and festival customs of the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. That's where you'll find in completion all of the required feast and festivals that are a part of the covenant if you want it to be a part of the Israelite, which some of you are bloodline of. And just assume that you are, even if you're not, because the Most High will be the one to sift through all the nations to pull the bloodline. But in any event, you still are going to have to follow those laws, whether you're the ruling class or the other class. So I would rather get caught with trying to follow them than to get caught not trying to follow them. So with that being said, I wanted to set your understanding and your mind thought to follow along with today's informational lesson that I hope to get here. And it should be a short one. Just want to give you some stuff, and you are going to have to study based on what you think that I am telling you to do. And then you leave your comments or your questions below in the comments section. Okay. So, with that being the beginning of months, I wanted to set that the Most High made the seventh day of the week, and that there has never been another weekly cycle. Even though there was a Roman calendar that had an 8-day week, it still had a 7-day week. That 8-day week was for the workers. They had a separate work calendar that was still in conjunction in varied parts with the current 7-day week. But according to the people of the world who have all the history that's available to them, there has never been more than a standard 7-day week since the beginning of time, since the beginning, whatever kingdom had existed. They created different things based off of that 7-day week. So every Saturday that we honor from the Greek and the Spanish language, Sabado, Shabbat, Shabbatin, whatever the case may be, that means the day of rest. And that has always been what we would call in the Gregorian calendar or in the English language, Saturday. That's the translated Greek version of that word, Satur. So just know that, right? So with that being the case, I wanted to establish that. So let's go real quickly to Genesis, the second chapter, when the Most High finished doing his work at that particular point in time. Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made." Verse 3, "And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made." So that is what I wanted to point out to you so you can see the beginning of the Sabbath day or the day of rest as it is, or a sanctified day. That's a day separated from all the other days for a particular reason. And that will be continual since the beginning of time based on the historical evidence that is available. There has never been any other 7 days other than the first 7 days. But in the Bible, the days respond to the first day, second day, third day, so on and so forth. They did not call the days Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but that is still irrelevant because that is a translation of what they were saying. We're in a different language. They were in Aramaic and Hebrew and other tongues at that time. But that's what's consistent, knowing that the first day, which would be equivalent to Sunday, not Monday, not the first work day, but the first calendar day of the week. And the Sabbath is always the last day to complete a week so you can rest and go back into the beginning of another week where you would work, give it here or there, whatever your particular personal schedule was. So you need to know that's why Saturday has and always will be the seventh day Sabbath of the Most High. So now, with that being said, let's go to the book of Exodus, and I want to go to chapter 16, Exodus 16, and let's go verse 25. Exodus chapter 16, verse 25. "And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field. 6 days shall ye gather it, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the seventh day together, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? Now, I wanted to point out how to interpret that. Right now, the children of Israel are intense moving. They have to move a little less than 300 miles from Egypt, from Cairo to Jerusalem, where they were headed. So just imagine camping and moving along, walking 10, 20 miles a day, doing that, stopping, setting up tents to rest and then move again. That's how they were moving. But at this point in time, when this scripture was being noted or copied or basically preset to be written, this happened to be the Friday or the day before the Sabbath, right? So what he was telling them was what God was doing was preparing them on how to do their weekly routine to so that they can continue to honor how he wants them to treat the seventh day Sabbath. And on Thursday or Friday, excuse me, the day before the Sabbath day, he wanted them to get double what they would normally get on a day to be able to eat. This is like getting groceries for us today or gathering what we need. The point of it is the servile work part of it is so you don't have to go back into the field or go to the store or go to do these different things to get something that you will either eat on the Sabbath or could eat unless it's a fasting day. Um, the point of it was to buy double on the Friday or the day before so that you don't have to do anything servile related on the Sabbath. All right. You can still eat on the Sabbath. But the point of it was is kindling a fire means to go chop the wood, to gather the wood to get it. You get double that on Friday, you'll have it, and you can just keep your fire going. Because the book of Numbers tells us that every Sabbath, you know, we are to sacrifice or burn meat, put meat on there not to eat, but just have it continually burn as a sweet sacrifice to the Most High. But with that being said, I wanted you to pay attention to the part where he told them he will give them double on the day before the Sabbath. But on the day of the Sabbath, there will be none with quail and the bread that was being pushed out. So when they went out on Saturday, just trying to say, man, I'm going to give me some more today, just doing the stuff that we know we do, trying to be slick, it wasn't anything. Now they're moving throughout a barren land. I won't say it was desert necessarily at that time. Today, some of that could have been the Sahara Desert, but not all of it, because Egypt is on the east coast of the northern African border, right? Near the Suez Canal and getting ready to cross over past Saudi Arabia, but right in that area at the edge of the Mediterranean Sea to the east of it. But the point of it was he was showing them that I'm not going to help you break my commandment regarding the Sabbath. So I will give you a double portion on Friday, but split it up, sieve that, cook that, do everything you can so that you don't have to worry about tomorrow. You'll have double portion, right? So eat a smaller portion today and save that other part for just one other day, and then eat that or pull on that the next day on the Sabbath to prevent you from doing any unnecessary servile work or stuff that you could have just doubled up on. So what the Most High is first of all preserving on the Sabbath is to minimize or eliminate you doing any type of unnecessary work. So that's why he made it. Man was not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man to make us stop. Hey man, no, you don't do that every day. And that's also to show proof that if he asked us to do it and we're under a covenant, then if we stop, that means we're more concerned. We fear him more than we do working or getting money for X, Y, or Z reason. That's what it's designed to have a weekly show. He says money answers all things. He knows we need it. He knows but you don't have to have the excess to break his law. And that's when he's going to separate himself from you and he won't be covering you. So at whatever point in time that he decides to show you that lesson, so shall it be. But I wanted you to see what Exodus, the 16th chapter, uh, was alluding to show you that God was in control of the Israelites while they were moving to preserve them, but he also had given them the law of 6 days of movement and working, but on the seventh day of that week to be prepared to not work and do the strenuous stuff. But on the sixth day of that week, the day before, to get double that, and that he would deliver or drop out to double that outside, because he was delivering this out from his sources, from the air, however he did it. It don't matter. They got it while moving and not being in populated areas. So they got it. So that was the point. So that's why he said, how long are they going to keep breaking my lesson? Or my laws, excuse me. He was telling you that, man, I got it set up. Why they keep going out? I gave them a double yesterday. So why are they still going out on my Sabbath when I told them not to do this? That's what that was about. So when you go back and read it, Exodus 16, then keep that in mind frame. So let's go now to Exodus, the 20th chapter and the 8th verse. I think I'm going to go 8 through the 11th, and I want you to listen. Exodus, the 20th, the 8th verse. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Remember means I told you before. It doesn't mean I'm telling you that. It says the one that you have always had, the seventh day Sabbath in particular. That's not the only Sabbath day. And we'll get to the other ones at a later point in this lesson. But the seventh day of the week is a weekly continual Sabbath. And it only changes when certain feasts or festivals go over that time frame, tabernacle, unleavened bread, whenever we have a particular law associated and it just happens to cover, which they will always cover that, it'll happen to cover the Saturday Sabbath, then we do those activities that are required for those particular festivals or feasts on that Saturday instead of our typical normal Saturday. Those are the exceptions, and you'll be able to find them once we get to our Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Well, here we go. Exodus, the 20th chapter, the 8th verse. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Keep it holy. Verse 9. 6 days shall thou labor and do all the work. But the seventh day of the week is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. That means if the Most High took a day off, he don't want to hear what you're talking about. The only exceptions are doing good and if an emergency happened. When your ox fall in the grave or in the hole or the ditch, excuse me, um, when your ox falls in the ditch, yeah, of course you're gonna pick him out, but you didn't plan that event that would happen. So if something happened that was just unavoidable, and it's good that you get it situated to prevent loss of life or the loss of your product. Of course, just do it, get it over with, and get back on your Sabbath calendar. But don't you plan 2 weeks in advance. Hey, we're going to Cancun on 2 Saturdays from now, and we're going to do this, and we're going to and it ends up being on a Saturday, and then you forsake the Most High's covenant or his law requirements, and then 2 weeks after that, when you sick or when somebody done broke into your stuff or did whatever, now you want the Most High to hear you, but you ignored him because I don't care what it is. Um, you do not have to do 99% of everything that you want to do on Saturday. Now, if you're stuck in a job situation where your schedule works on a Sabbath, what you're required to do is to keep pressing your quote unquote bosses about changing your schedule. And while you're also doing that, if that doesn't happen, you're supposed to be working with the Most High while you're following his rules to get another get another get another job. And that's ultimately how you get out of that. All right. Quit making excuses. Try to work around where, man, I'm trying to make sure I don't have to work on a Saturday if at all possible. And then if they won't work with me, I'll keep working here until I get out of this job and put forth all your effort to get out of that job and get another job that does not require you if possible, to work on Saturday. But the Most High will rate you on what your effort was to try to get that situation rectified. So no effort, no promise, So I wanted to show you Exodus 20 because that would be um, to show proof why the Most High set up the Sabbath day and how he feels about it. I tell you what, now let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 15, and I want to go to verse 32. And once I read it, we'll talk about what it means. The book of Numbers, chapter 15, verse 32. And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks on the Sabbath day. While the children, this is the same group that was moving, that when they were going out on the Sabbath to try to find it, they're talking about that again. So when the children of Israel were in the wilderness moving about, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Sabbath day. And they found him gathering sticks, brought him unto Moses and Aaron and unto all the congregation. And they put him inward. In other words, they locked him down, put him in like putting him in a cell, because it was not declared what should be done to him. And the Lord said unto Moses, the man shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with the stones without the camp. And all the congregation brought him without the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died as the Lord commanded Moses. Two things happening here. The Most High wanted to see if you're going to do what he say do regarding it, and he put you at the toughest test to kill a man. But the fear of the Most High is more prominent than any fear of any man on earth that can only kill the body but can't kill the soul. So with that being said, that's what the importance of that particular scriptures are in the book of Numbers, chapter 15, starting at verse 35 through 38. So what it showed you was, first of all, the man broke the law, gathering sticks on the Sabbath, which I had just spoken to you about, which was brought out earlier. So now you're dealing with what the ultimate punishment is. And this parallels to what will ultimately happen at the next judgment period in time. And where they were in the Mosaic covenant, that death was at that point to be sudden. With us, it'll be the absence of eternal life, and potentially you can still die under different circumstances. But with that being said, you need to pay attention to what was done, what was God's reaction to it, and what were the servants of the congregation. And in that case, the congregation without the camp mean the few gentlemen that were there. If it was 6 or 7 gentlemen and there were 100,000 people that were part of the Israelite movement that were in the wilderness moving about to get to the promised land, what that meant was the congregation at that point meant was that select group of men out of the entire population that the Most High was dealing with of Israelites that were moving, so on and so forth. So they stoned them to death. So in the Most High's world, he made us. So it don't matter what he say do. If he wants death to be done, he could either do it or he gonna appoint his workers or his messengers to do it. And in this case, Moses is still getting tested and prompted to be the certified leader. So let's just keep that in mind. That's what that was about. So that, again, that was the book of Numbers, chapter 15. So now let's go to, I think I want to go to Exodus 12. Make sure that I did bring that up to you. Let's go to Exodus 12 and 2 again. And let's go. I'll just start at 1 and read 1 through 2. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you, that to the Israelites that are moving. That is the month that we are in now, because this is the time of year that the children started to move. And that's why this was chosen, because this was the beginning of the covenant setup. It doesn't matter what year calendar they were using. This is saying something specific for you, holy, separate from all the other nations. This is your calendar. I want you to keep, so I would know that you are separate from your worldly calendar and take adherence to mine. And this is the type of things that can get you put to death or separated from your people. This is how he's going to know that you are following his laws, statutes, and commandments. That's how we get tested. So anything else that you want because you think that you're nice because you didn't run the lady over with the car at Walmart the other day, that you're supposed to get blessed. No. What's going to be on your record? Okay, how many times did you keep the feast of the book of Leviticus chapter 23 and the festivals and the Sabbath day and and do this and do. That's how you get marked. So your best bet is to try to restudy and come back in and start at the beginning basic levels of weekly Sabbath. Saturday is the seventh day of the week. Monthly Sabbath, which we'll get into a little more. That is when the new moon, you are required to get a new moon app. If you can't see it outside, don't just trust on that. You're not of their time. Just do what I'm telling you to do so that you'll have access to it and mark it where it can make different sounds when you're getting close to a new moon and all that. Not full moon. A new moon is a black moon. 15 days, 14 or 15 days after the new moon starts, that's when you have a full moon. So make sure that you are clear on there is a difference between a new moon and a full moon. New moon is starting at 0. And then when it comes back around at the end of the month, it'll be at 100, which would have gone through all the cycles, and it'll be prepared to start over the next month as the next new moon. So right now, if the new moon was on Tuesday, if Tuesday was the first day of the month, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, today, Saturday, the Sabbath, today is the 5th day of the month, but it's the 7th day of the week. So tomorrow will be the 6th day, and then Monday will be the 7th day. And that will be the day leading into not this week, but 2 weeks from now, will be leading into Passover. And that's why I'm trying to get this out to you so you'll have a week or so to catch yourself up and get the actual date. So just remember to go back to how far back the new moon was. And I'm telling you now, it was March the 21st of the year 2023. So go back to that. Start on the 21st as the first day of this month and catch up once we get to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, in terms of do this on the 14th day of the month, 15th. Count from that day. All right. And if you have any other questions not fully clear, please make sure that down in the comment section that you write your question, and you need to get this together. It's that serious. Put your effort forward and let's get this perfected. And just keep going with your best effort forward, and it will get perfected. All right. So with that being said, let's go to I want to go ahead. I think I'm going to go ahead and go to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And the reason I want to do that so that I can get you in the chapter. I'm not going to read all of it to you because you're going to have to do some of your own study. And if I know you're trying to read and study, that means you're going to leave a question and we can get that clear. But you going to have to read the study to show yourself approved. I'm just getting your mind frame work together to let you know that the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, is the book that has all of the feast and festival. Doing this month, doing that month, the 14th day of the month, the month, count 50 days from this point, the sheep, all of that different stuff. This is the book that is in, all right? So we're going to start with the first one, and I just want to start out at the top of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even in their due season. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest. He's re-emphasizing that. And holy convocation. And the holy convocations mean when we do those things, it's considered a separate day or specified day that's sanctified to the Most High. So that's where we are, holy gathering, with all the children doing the same thing where they are. Ye shall do no work therein. It is a Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. So that's what the 7th day Sabbath is re-emphasizing. Ye shall do no work therein. The weekly Sabbath is a day of rest, and you can study your scriptures and your law statutes, and you also can go to, if there had been a synagogue, which Christ did in book of Acts, or book of John, excuse me, where it was his custom, and he went down there. Whether it was law or not, that was the place to go to get your information, especially for their time. So you can do that on that day. But the requirement is to cease and come out of the world, going shopping and working and just football on TV, all of that type of stuff. Get out of that. Shut your house down, minimize it. And if you do anything on a YouTube, you can watch some scriptural videos talking about our covenant and different brothers and camps that may have that out there. So that's the type of thing that you should be doing on Saturday. It shouldn't be I'm at home, but I'm on watching whoever your favorite artist or rapper, whatever, that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Act as if God is on the way to your house. What do you want to have get caught with on TV or on your phone or on your this or your that? Think about it that way, and you'll continue to get it. But just start to study and go that motion, and you'll get all the questions answered. So verse 4, Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, says, verse 4, these are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. Meaning when they're supposed to be done, whichever month that it is telling you to do it, that's the season. This is the season technically of spring. And it doesn't mean every month changes the season, but he will have a particular feast or festival or activity that is conjunctive to different seasons and times that different things happen in order to have us a ritual calendar and a cycle of doing different things. So keep that in mind when it says seasons. Every new moon is a different month, but it doesn't mean that you have to do a particular thing if it doesn't call for it in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, in that particular month. All right. So just keep that in mind. Worry about the days of the month. Once it starts, and it could start on any day in the 28, 30-day period from the beginning of the last one, you're just all about the cycle of that moon that you're in. However long it lasts, and when it becomes new, that's when you start the next month. And you can also go to your, an easy thing to do is to go and Google the Hebrew calendar or the Israelite calendar. You'll find different forms of it, and you'll have all of the names of the different months on there, starting with Nisan or Abib and Tashur, all these different months. You study, you pull it up, Hebrew calendar month, and go from there and keep juncturing around and say, hey, this is the right one, and we'll keep communicating, and it'll be yay or nay, and we'll get that positive. But you're going to have to do some work, all right? Um, so these are the feasts of the Lord. And verse 5 says the 14th day of the first month. That's the month that we're in right now, but we're on day 5 as of this video. Saturday is the 5th day of the month. The first day was Tuesday. In the 14th day of the first month at even, that means at evening, when it's the 14th day, the Passover starts or the preparation for it, whatever you have to do the things that are involved in that particular feast or festival. So the reason he calls for the evening, he's saying when the sun drops, that's the preparation for what you're going to do, what would normally be a work day. So that's why the calendar is set up like that with the Israelites. And they say at evening, even though we're saying the day starts at evening, what it means is your preparation for what you're going to do during the normal work period starts at evening. You go to rest, you get sleep, you take a bath, you can cook, do all that stuff during the preparation period. But once the sun comes up, you're supposed to stop or be prepared to do what you have to do for that day. That's how you want to see. So when you see at even, even, that's the abbreviated of evening. That's what it's saying when the sun goes down. And right now the sun is setting in the east coast of America anyway, at around 7:45 ish, right before 8 o'clock. But right now it's about 7:45 uh, on this calendar. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're reading that. So with that being said, you read the rest of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, and see that you catch the the instructions of how to follow through to get to the next thing on the 14th day, the 15th, because after the Passover starts on the 14th of this month, the very next day, the feast of unleavened bread, because that's what they were doing, and you can find that in Exodus as well, 12 and 16th chapter and 20, where they were talking when they were doing those things. So the reason they had to eat unleavened bread was because they were moving in tents, pretty much running from the Egyptians before they could get a hold to them. So they were moving hastily as much as possible for that many people. Um, they didn't have any time to set up a baking oven. Where they were in Egypt, yeah, they could bake because they had everything at their within their arm reach, but they had no time to set up anything to bake. So they had bread that they could piece together to have something to eat, but it did not have any flour or any self-rising flour or leavening agent. That's what it does. You put this in the mix, then it'll make your item that you're putting in the oven explode, if you will, or puff out or blow. That when you take that out, it stays flat. And even crackers have leaven in it. You have to get a particular type of kosher cracker or something like that. And that's what I would say during unleavened bread. Go to the store and make sure you read all the instructions and look for the word Leaven, leaven. If it says it in the instruction, that means it's in the food. So you should not be eating that for that 7-day period. All right. So with that being said, that's what comes after Passover. Passover is on the 14th day, and from the 15th day for the next 7 days, um, you're going to be eating unleavened bread. And you can cook meat, lamb, and sacrifice that. And you also are required to try to sacrifice some meat. That's the meat that you're going to let burn until it's all crisp out. And then the other meat that you can eat. So one is like having a piece for the Most High, and one is like for you to chew on and eat. So even if you eat meat and bread or unleavened bread or crackers throughout that week, maybe some vegetation, something simple, but none of the fly stuff, because you remember our forefathers were moving about to get us under this covenant eventually. So that's why we do these memorial things, the feasts and festivals that are listed in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. So just keep that in mind. I'm trying to cover as much without going to, because it can stretch out. But read in there all the rest of the instructions. I want to see how many of you read it and start Q&A about how it's saying do this or do that. All right, Leviticus 23rd chapter. Now let's do this. I want to touch real quickly on Rosh Chodesh, which is new moon, and I'm going to show you where it tells us to kind of focus on that. So I want to go Exodus, the 12th chapter. Do I want to do that? No. Let's go Numbers 28. Let's go to book of Numbers, chapter 28. And so with that being said, I want to go 28 and 11. Let me see in my notes here. The book of Numbers, chapter 28, verse 11. And in the beginning of your months, ye shall offer a burnt offering unto the Lord. 2 young bullocks, 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year without spot. This is him telling, these were a lot of sheep herders and goat gatherers and all of those. So they had hundreds of those animals. So right here is the instructions that they were given for their time period. We're coming out of our punishment period, so we're required to rehearse these laws. So once everything gets reestablished, it'll be in us, and he's going to lock that in us, write it in our hearts and minds. So that's what you have going on. I'm not crazy enough to think that everybody has access to 7 rams and and bullock and lambs, and bullocks and those types of things. But the point of it is to keep going until you mimic as best as possible, to the most of your ability, these laws. That's your goal. He will see your effort. He will see you, what you did, everything you could to try to meet that as close as possible. But just pay attention to the specific instruction. But this is talking about what to do on the new moon. This is the first day of the month. This is what we are to aim for in the big scale or small scale. That's why I wanted to read to you Numbers 28, and I think maybe I should touch. I'm gonna go Numbers 29 and 6. Just give you one other thing on the new moon. Beside the burnt offering of the month and his meat offering, and the daily burnt offering and his meat offering, and their drink offerings according unto their manner, for a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by the Lord, unto the Lord. And ye shall have on the 10th day of the 7th month and holy convocation, and ye shall afflict your souls. That means to fast, and ye shall not do any work therein. That goes on to talk about one of the other festivals or feasts that's in the book of Leviticus. So just keep that part in mind, right? So what I want you to do is to take that, and I'm gonna give you another verse here that just talks about new moon or Rosh Kadesh in Hebrew terms. That's how it was pronounced, a new beginning. So the book of Haggai, if you will, 1 verse 1, the book of Psalms. And I do want to read this to let you know that the new moon is actually a law. And this is where it's reemphasized from David, and this is how they understood it. So let's go Psalms 81 and go verses 3 through 4. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the God of Jacob. A law. So read your feasts and festivals in Leviticus 23 and see which one he tells us to blow the trumpet at the beginning of that month, or the new moon, or the first day of that particular month. And lastly, I'm going to give you a scripture so you can understand the difference between being at, maybe not working and being at home versus doing work or doing whatever. This is called Exodus, the 24th chapter, the 23rd. That is not right. And what I want to do, let me get this the script right. I said Exodus. All right. The Exodus, the 23rd chapter, and the 24th chapter, the 23rd through the 24th verse, excuse me. All right, Exodus 24, verse 23. Thrice in the year. That means 3 times. The word thrice is spelled Thrice. Thrice in the year shall all your men children appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. For I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge the borders. Neither shall any man desire thy land when thou shalt go to appear before the Lord thy God thrice in the year. He's telling us that's the holy gathering convocation 3 different times out the year where he's saying, I want everybody to come to this versus everybody just on a typical Sabbath sitting. So that's the distinction on there, and you'll be able to add upon that. But I wanted to point that out to you, but I think I'm going to stop here. I'm right up under about under 45 minutes. So I tried to go as quick as possible, but it's enough that if you listen, that should generate a question or two or give you to go in and just pay attention. If I think of any verses while editing this, I'm going to add them. So when you're watching, you can just hit the stop button or the pause button when I have a screen of any precepts that are upon the screen. And precepts are pointed out in the book of Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 10. So if I put anything up there, just stop the video, either jot them down or take a screenshot with your camera so you can have them as a reference point. Then you can go back and pull and add But let's get to where we can communicate here. But with that being said, for now, I want to just say shalom and peace to all my brothers and sisters. And thanks for tuning in to Tents of Judah. And hopefully I can get some questions and some different comments from you. And until then, I want you all to take care. Shalom.